The bell. Okay. Welcome. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Lincoln on this Sunday morning. I am Andy Larson, your worship associate this morning. Over the last several years, the way we have met has often changed. But whether in person, on Zoom, on a YouTube live stream, or some way of being that we cannot yet imagine, worship together is a change to deepen our connection with the sources of meaning in our lives and to proclaim who we are and what we are about, throwing open the doors of the congregation and proclaiming the radical love and welcome that is at the heart of our faith. The Unitarian Church of Lincoln aspires to be a loving community, uniting reason with spiritual exploration to transform ourselves and the world. Welcome to this loving community. May we, in our gathering here, be about the work of transforming ourselves and our world. And welcome to the choir.
There is sorrow in my town. to hold my confusion. Give me a desert to hold my fears. Give me a sunset to hold my wonder. Give me an ocean to hold my tears. For I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It is honors those who come before us, so lift me up to the light of
Our chalice lighting this morning is by Laura Wallace, titled Determined Seed. As frozen earth holds the determined seed, this sacred space holds our weariness, our worry, our laughter, and our celebration. Let us bring seed and soul into the light of thought, the warmth of community, and the hope of love. Let us see together, hear together, love together. Let us worship. Our first hymn is Gather the Spirit, SLT number 347.
Spirit,
once again.
If anyone would like to come forward for the story, you're welcome to do so now. Our story today is called After the Fall by Dan Santat. My name is Humpty Dumpty. This was my favorite spot high up on the wall. I know it's an odd place for an egg to be, but I loved being close to the birds. And then one day I fell. I'm sort of famous for that part. Folks called it the Great Fall, which sounds a little grand. It was really just an accident, but it changed my life. Fortunately, all the king's folks managed to put me back together. Well, most of me. There were some parts that couldn't be healed with bandages and glue. You see, after that day, I became afraid of heights. I was so scared that it kept me from enjoying some of my favorite things. I walked past the wall every day, and I would think about climbing that ladder again. I really missed the birds and being high above the city, but I could just never do it because I know that accidents can happen. I eventually settled for watching the birds from the ground. Wasn't the same, but it was better than nothing. It was an in-between time. Not good, not great, not bad, not awful, just in between. I had a lot of healing to do. I was thinking, I was going to therapy, highly recommend. I read a whole lot of information about birds, and I just was. And then one day, an idea flew by. Making planes was harder than I thought. It was easy to get cuts and scratches, but day after day, I kept trying and trying until I got it just right. And my plane was fantastic, and it flew like nothing could stop it. Actually, I hadn't felt that happy in a really long time. It wasn't the same as being up in the sky with the birds, but it's close enough. Unfortunately, accidents happen. They always do. I almost walked away again. But then I thought about the time I'd spent working on my plane and all the other things I'd missed, and I decided I was going to climb that wall. The higher I got, the more nervous I felt, and I didn't want to admit it, but I was terrified. I didn't look up. I didn't look down. I just kept climbing, one step at a time, until I was no longer afraid. Maybe now you won't think of me as that egg who was famous for falling. Hopefully you'll remember me as the egg who got back up, put himself back together, and learned how to fly. And that is the end of our story. Our next hymn is Spirit of Life, number 123. So if you would please rise as you are able, and the children will head back to their classes.
All
A central part of our services is the time we join together as a community to mark the moments of our lives. We share with one another our joys, our sorrows, the events that mark the steps on our journey. The threads of sorrow and those of joy are intertwined in the fabric of our lives, present for all, remembered by all. We share those threads, and then they are woven together with those of others in our community. Our joys are shared and magnified. We are comforted in our sorrows. I invite you to type into the chat or speak into this shared space your name or the name of another you wish to be remembered in sorrow. Kathy.
Aaron.
Lisa. Karen? Aaron.
Lisa, Brad, and her family.
Lisa, Brad, and her family.
Fitzgibbon family.
Say again?
Fitzgibbon family.
The Fitzgibbon family.
Kara.
Kara. I invite you to type into the chat or speak into the shared space your name or the name of another you wish to be remembered in joy.
Mary Lou.
Mary Lou.
Bill being well enough that I can give him a hug.
Bill being well enough to hug. We did have someone in the chat in sorrow, Ricky, who is undergoing chemotherapy.
My dad turned 80 yesterday.
Happy 80th birthday.
My African family are back in their own home.
BJ's African family is safely home. In the chat, Marcia remembers Lori in sorrow. We know, too, that there are some joys, some sorrows that are yet unspoken, but still deeply felt. Let us hold a moment of silence for everything unspoken. Thank you for your presence. We have the offering coming up, and the choir will be singing Show Us How to Love by Mark Miller. This reading is by Leslie Ahuva Fales. All that we have been, all that we will become. All that we have been separately, and all that we will become together, is stretched out before and behind us like stars scattered across a canvas of sky. We stand at the precipice, arms locked together like tandem skydivers working up the courage to jump. Tell me, friends, what have we got to lose? Our fear of failure? Our mistrust of our own talents? What have we got to lose? A poverty of the spirit? The lie that we are alone? What wonders await us in the space between the first leap and the moment our feet, our wheels, however we move our bodies across this precious earth, touch down softly on unknown soil? What have we got to lose that we can't replace with some previously unimaginable joy? Blessed are you, Spirit of life, who has sustained us, enlivened us, and enabled us to reach this moment. Give us courage in our leaping and gratitude in our landing, and share with us in the joy of a long and fruitful ministry together. So today, January 2nd, in 1973, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the constitutional right to abortion access based on the right to personal privacy. The bodily autonomy promised by the now overruled decision in Roe v. Wade is constantly under threat, whether by abortion bans or, for example, anti-trans legislation. Our own legislature has introduced this session both a 6-week abortion ban and several bills targeting trans people and their access to art, sports, and medical transition. It is a dark, scary time for a lot of us as we campaign for more durable protections for that personal privacy and bodily autonomy than that once offered by the Supreme Court. Don't forget to show your support for the members of your community affected by these attempts to send us back into the darkness, ending pregnancies and performing queer joy in equal fear of legal harassment and oppression. Our sermon is by the Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, and it is titled Embracing Possibility in Times of Change.
Hello, Unitarian Universalists. I'm Susan Frederick Gray, president of your Unitarian Universalist Association, and it is my joy to be with you today. One of the gifts of these pandemic times has been the ways we have grown in our capacity to connect across congregations and across our association. Over 5 years ago, when I was elected president of the UUA, I knew there was no way I could visit every UU congregation as much as I would have liked to have done so. And yet, through technology and being able to offer a message that any and all of our congregations can use, I am grateful to be able to connect in this way and share with you some of what I witness from my vantage point as I pay attention to our association as a whole and the dynamics of our changing world. For more than a year now, I have been talking about these times we are living in as liminal times. Liminal means a time in between, when what has been is no longer and what is ahead is still unclear. The pandemic upended so much of our lives, and yet what is next is still unfolding, still being imagined. I know that many of us are no strangers to this experience, and that for many of our congregations, we are experiencing layers of liminality, layers of transitions. I can relate as I finish my last year as your UUA president, and the UUA prepares to welcome our next president. The UUA president will be elected by delegates from our congregations this coming June at our General Assembly online and in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I hope you will send your delegates. In addition to all of our own personal transitions, a number of our congregations are in various modes of change. Many are in ministerial search or hiring processes for other staff. Others are in their first year of welcoming new staff. You know, across our congregations, we are seeing a lot of staff transition and a shortage of interim ministers. Like a lot of caring professions, we have seen religious professionals leave their work, needing a break after what has been a grueling few years of both pastoral, prophetic, and technological demands. It has all been so much. It could be said that we're all learning to live and adapt in the in-between. We know from these last several years both the challenge and the losses, as well as the creativity and possibility of these transitional times. And the lessons from these times are crucial to bring forward because in truth, there is still so much change happening and needed within and around all of us. This is certainly true in our congregations where the ways in which people connect to religious community have broadened and shifted and new patterns are still developing. And it's true in our country where we continue to witness systems and practices break down with devastating impacts. From healthcare and infrastructure to basic goods and services, to the economy, to democracy. Our system has shown tremendous weaknesses that impact the vulnerable most acutely. Human and civil rights are being rolled back at an alarming rate, and these fissures overall reflect a society that has put profit and power over people's lives. Now, in times of change and disruption, there is always a risk that fear and anxiety will dominate and lead people to cling more tightly to what has been, to a status quo that has never served the cause of human need, nor the values of justice and equity. But here's the thing. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are a people of faith. We are a people of hope and imagination. And I witness this in so many places across our faith, from congregations that continue to partner and share resources, to the energy and volunteers of UU the Vote, to our congregations boldly sacrificing to support people in accessing reproductive care, and to all of our congregations celebrating and being a loving community for trans and non-binary children and youth and their families. And so, when so much is uncertain, it matters that we lean in even more to what we know to be true, the life-saving message of our theology and the life-affirming practices of the beloved community. So there is this wonderful parable from the late Denon Perry, a writer and humanitarian, that uses the metaphor of a trapeze artist to describe the experience of living in transition times. This is from the Parable of the Trapeze from Perry's book, Warriors of the Heart. He writes, "Most of the time, I spend my life hanging on for dear life to my trapeze bar of the moment. It carries me along at a certain steady rate of swing, and I have that feeling that I am in control of my life. But every once in a while, I see another trapeze bar swinging toward me. Each time it happens, I pray that I won't have to let go of my old bar completely before I grab the new one. But in my knowing place, I know that I must totally release my grasp on the old bar, and for some moment in time must hurdle across space before I can grab on to the new bar. Each time, I'm filled with terror. It doesn't matter that in all my previous hurdles across the void of unknowing, I have always made it. Still, each time I'm afraid that I will miss. I do it anyway. Perhaps this is the essence of what the mystics call the faith experience. No guarantees, no net, no insurance policy, but you do it anyway because somehow to keep hanging on to that old bar is no longer on the list of alternatives. So for an eternity that can last a microsecond or 1,000 lifetimes, I soar through the void of the past is gone, the future is not yet. It's called transition, and I've come to believe that this transition is the only place that real change occurs. And I mean real change, not the pseudo change that only lasts until the next time my old buttons get pushed. What a powerful metaphor that is about our lives today. and a reminder that real change, needed change, is possible, perhaps only possible in these transition times. Now, there's a few nuggets of wisdom in this story to really draw out. First, as Perry says, as much as we want to stay holding on to our current bar, it just doesn't work that way. We have to totally release our grasp on the old to make way for the new. And this is not easy. I want to be clear, for in times of change, there's a real tension between longing for what was, what we knew was stable, familiar, and meaningful, even if it was not that for everybody, and the opportunity to imagine something new, new forms, new practices, new possibilities in our lives and community. This is so relevant for our congregations today. The pandemic completely changed so much of congregational life and how we gather. And as we navigate what comes next, there's a real tension within many of our communities. Some of us know we can't go back. We know we need something different, and we're ready and excited for that future. But we can also have anxiety and a desperate desire to know for sure what comes next. We want that certainty, whereas others long for what was, because we are all often attached to what has been familiar to us in our past. And so many people want that familiar congregational experience again. But the truth is, both of these are seeking attachment when we are in the midst of transition. And being able to stay in the transition, growing more comfortable with being in that void and uncertainty, is the place where growth really happens. And this means experimentation and creativity. And this can be challenging because we want to know what comes next before letting go of what we have always done. But we can spend all our time trying to answer questions we don't have answers to, or we can just go for it and start experimenting with living our theology in ways that give us courage and resilience today. And this means bringing creativity and generosity and care to the children and youth and families that are so in need because of this pandemic. And it means courage to answer the call to fully live in active solidarity with those who know how much is on the line and working to bring about more justice, equity, and compassion to fruition. Because here's the other gem in the parable. When the trapeze artist lets go of the bar, they do not free fall. There is momentum carrying them as it carries us all. And it's that fear of free fall that can keep us clinging to something that no longer works. But our connection, our shared history, our ancestors, our songs and readings and poetry, our spiritual imagination, all of these are momentum that propel us forward. We give each other courage. And the truth is, we are not swinging on these bars alone. We are together in this moment. And we will make mistakes, and we will learn from them, and we will learn to love again if we are willing to take a leap of faith. I want to acknowledge how embodied this metaphor of the trapeze artist is. But remember disabled acrobats and blind aerialists whose art and athleticism carries the same metaphors. There are many words I could use to describe the momentum that keeps propelling us in these liminal times. Calling, mission, whatever it is that acts as a beacon that calls us forward, calls us towards what is most treasured in our faith, that calling of the beloved community. And when I speak of beloved community, I mean the description that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. offers about a community that practices an all-inclusive, overflowing love that supports everyone's thriving, and a love that cannot tolerate injustice, exploitation, discrimination, and poverty because of the damage these things do to human thriving. Denon Perry ends his parable with one final lesson. He writes, I have a sneaking suspicion that the transition zone is the only real thing, and the bars are illusions we dream up to avoid the void where the real change, the real growth occurs for us. Yes, with all the pain and fear and feelings of being out of control that can, but not necessarily accompany transitions, they are still the most alive, most growth-filled, passionate, expansive moments in our lives. Transforming our need to grab that new bar, it can be terrifying. It can also be enlightening in the true sense of the word. Hurtling through the void, we may just learn how to fly. Oh, I love that ending from Perry. And I want to use it to end with a charge for all of us. Yes, we have been in a time of change and uncertainty for years now. So many bars on which we relied just disappeared, and many of us know the deep pain of being forced into a transition that we never wanted. Naturally, within all of us, we want to get to that next bar, to be settled, to have the pandemic over, to have this transition time done, to be through the grief. However, as much as we all want to find that solidity, may we remember that as Perry offers, the bars are the illusion, and that transition is the only real time, and it's the most alive and growth-filled space. And in that liminality, in that in-between, we may just learn to fly. Because in this world that is indeed at a threshold moment, we need religious communities that are living actively in this in-between time, willing to remain unsettled because so much is unsettled. Communities leaning into and reimagining what prophetic, life-saving, and justice-making ministry and community can be. Communities practicing a generosity of spirit, a generosity of care and belonging, of mutual support, to support one another in love in these times, and knowing faithfully that our values, our spiritual imagination, our interdependence will carry all of us forward. May it be so. And I want to just end with a prayer. Spirit of life, we are mindful of all those who came before us. We are mindful and committed to all those who will come after us. Love, hold us fast to what is best and deepest in us. Hold us close to one another and to all that is our life. And may we keep true to all that calls us forward in love and in liberation. Blessed be, and amen.
Please rise in body or in spirit for Blue Boat Home, 1064 in the Teal hymnal.
Lo belonging
This piece is by Eric Walker Wickstrom. The purpose of this community is to help its people grow. If you are who you were, and if the person next to you is who he or she was, if none of us has changed since the day we came in here, we have failed. The purpose of this community, of any church, temple, zendo, mosque, is to help its people grow. We do this through encounters with the unknown, in ourselves, in one another, in the other, whoever that might be for us, however hard that might be, because these encounters have many gifts to offer. So may you go forth from here this morning, not who you were, but who you could be. So may we all.
One change might be the disco light effects that we have this morning.
Kind of exciting.
It goes with be the change. Be the change. We'll do it. We'll just.
We could do without the light.
Shine in the dark.
Have a good week, everyone.